We are going to start learning about percentages. So first we need to know the definition of a percent. So a percent is a number out of 100. If you break up this word percent, it literally means out of 100. So per means out of, and cent means 100. Like there's 100 cents in a dollar. If you have a century, that's 100 years. So percent literally means a number out of 100. And the symbol we use to do that, we do the circle, the slash, and the other circle. We can kind of help remember that it's like 100, right? Here's the 1, 0, 0. It's just a little out of order, but it means 100. So the key thing we have to remember, it's like a secret mystery number. Every time we hear percent, we have to connect that to the number 100. We have to know that that means 100. Percent is out of 100. So now we can also change fractions, which are ratios, and we can change decimals into percentages. They're all the same, and we can change one from any of the others. So we're going to try one out here. So we have 67 out of 100. So we're going to write that as a ratio, a decimal, and a percent. So a ratio is a fraction. So we have 67, and that's out of 100. So there's our ratio. Pretty easy. Just take the numbers, write them as a fraction. Now the decimal, we have 67 hundredths. So the hundredths place on a decimal is 2 places over tenths, hundredths. So we need 67 hundredths. And then the percent, we just come back to here, right? It's 67 out of 100. So we take the ratio, 67. Oh, I did not want to write my 6 there. 67, and we can't just say 67. We have to put the percent to show that it's out of 100. So when we read these, they all say the same thing. 67 hundredths, 67 hundredths, 67 hundredths, because it's out of 100. All of these are less than one whole thing, right? You only got 67% on your test. You didn't get the whole test correct. You don't have the whole thing. You don't have a whole thing. So these are all the same thing out of 100. So let's try one that's not out of 100, 7 out of 20. So we're going to make sure we set up the ratio equal to 100. We're going to make it be 100. So the ratio, we start as 7 out of 20. But to get to a decimal, it has to be tenths or hundredths. And then percent has to be out of 100. So we're going to do the work now, so it makes percent and decimals really easy. So we're setting up our ratio. We want it to be out of 100, something out of 100. So I'm asking myself, how do I get from 20 to 100? 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. We're going to times by 5. So if I times by 5 here, I do the same thing to the numerator, times by 5. So 7 times 5 is 35. So now we have this equivalent ratio of 35 hundredths. Now I can easily write my decimal and my percent. So again, 2 decimal places, 0.35, 35 out of 100, 35 hundredths, right? Has 2 zeros, 1, 2 on 100. So we need 2 places in our decimal. And the percent, we come back, we get the number from the ratio, 35%, put that symbol so we know that it's out of 100. It's not just 35, 35%. That means it's 35 out of 100. And we're going to try one more here. So we have 3 out of 8. And this time we are going to use the, let me type up here, proportion strategy. So very similar to what we just learned in our last module. So we're going to set it up and see how we get there. So we have 3 out of 8. And we know we need to get to 100. Now the problem is when I count by 8s, there's not a perfect way to get to 100. So we're going to crisscross multiply and then divide. So 3 times 100 is 300. And then we're going to divide that by 8. So Can't go into 3, but it goes into 30, 8, 16, 24, 3 times is 24. 6 left over, bringing down a 0. That goes in there 7 times. 5, 6, 7, 8. 56 is 7 times 8. And we have 4 left over. So we're going to add on a 0 here in a decimal. And 8 goes into 40 5 times. Got to bring that decimal straight up. So it goes in there perfectly 5 times. So our ratio is 37.5 out of 100. 3/8. Those are the same thing, but we want our decimal percent out of 100. So our decimal, now this one's a little bit trickier. So kind of ignore the 0.5 for right now, right? It's 37 hundredths. So that means that 7 should be in the hundredths place. 37, and then we just stick that 5 on the end. So we have 375 thousandths, but right, it's still 37 hundredths. We just have that little bit more in the thousandths place right now. So the percent, we're going to come back to our ratio, 37.5, and put our percent sign so we know it's out of 100. So they all say the exact same thing. So every single time we want to make sure we are setting up percents out of 100. That is our magic number every time.